What's up, everybody, and welcome back to another YouTube video. UA Lost Kids coming in with kind of a different thing on the channel, or a different video than what we normally would do, what we've done up to this point. But we're gonna kind of do a how to buy and sell on Facebook, Facebook groups, as the title says. Now we're gonna cover both aspects of it, the buy and selling portion of it for trading cards and in particular, right? Um, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, Digimon, Dragon Ball Super. Pretty much any trading card that you can think of probably has a buy and sell group somewhere on Facebook. It most likely exists, and I've never really seen many videos on like kind of how to buy and sell, good practices, what to look out for, that sort of a thing. And for every trading card group buy and sell, there's almost always a complaint group as well. And we'll kind of get into that, further down the video. But those are just as important as the Facebook buy and sell groups themselves. But let's get right into it. And the first thing I want to talk about is the use of timestamps. Now, timestamps are just simply a piece of paper with your name and today's date on it. The seller would provide this to the buyer next to the product that they would like to buy. Some people say that they're useless and that they don't really provide any protection. I strongly disagree. I've had many people stop talking to me after I've requested a timestamp from them. And anybody who would be able to Photoshop a decent timestamp into a picture is most likely not wasting their time trying to scam people out of a few bucks on Facebook buy and sell trading card groups. You know what I mean? It's usually pretty blatant if they're fake or not. Don't get me wrong, some people may, but it's going to be few and far from in between. It's a lot less common as people make it out to be, in my opinion anyway. The next thing would be communication with the seller. This goes for the seller and the buyer, but in the buyer, what you really want to try and communicate is exactly what you're looking for, the condition that you're looking to buy it in. If you're going to use goods and services, which we'll get into. There's a lot of various things, so make sure you have good communication. I can't tell you how many times I've dealt with a trade complaint, because I'm actually part of Yugioh trade complaints. I'm a what's it called, administrator or whatever, part of that group. And there's a lot of stuff that could be avoided if people were to just really talk and really understand what exactly they're getting into, what they're buying, conditions of things, languages. Make sure you read posts thoroughly and completely, so that way you don't have a problem down the road, or at least you can try and avoid and try and avoid issues. Right. And that goes as far as a lot has to do with that, with condition of cards. Make sure things are in the conditions that you like. Obviously, be reasonable about it. Don't ask for 100 pictures of a $2 card. Sellers don't have time to deal with that. I never did, because I used to sell quite a bit on these groups, but not so much anymore. But anyway, so if it's a high-end card, try and get as many pictures as you possibly can. That's my best advice, best practice for you on that one. Make sure you're using PayPal, and only PayPal, in my opinion. They provide the best protection for you as the buyer. Pay goods and services, or have the person you're buying from. I know terms and services of PayPal is that the buyer doesn't cover goods and services, but sometimes it's just one of those things, right? You might have to, you might not have to. It's all up to you. Obviously, you're the buyer. It's up to you if you want to pay for it or not. But I would strongly suggest that you always use goods and services. It's one of the best ways to protect yourself as the buyer. And always try and buy enough product to constitute a tracking number. That is my personal opinion. I'm not a huge fan of plain white envelope, or PWE, where you only use a stamp to send out the goods to people, or to receive goods that way. So kind of go in with a mindset, I'm going to spend, $20 to $50 today on XYZ cards, and that way you can have a tracking number. You're nice and safe with goods and services, and the transaction can be completed smoothly. Try not to waste sellers' time. If you're not that interested in a card, don't message them about it. I know it's only, to you it's just you're communicating with somebody back and forth, but some sellers, they get hundreds of messages a day. So if you're not actually interested in the card that's posted or the cards that are posted, and you're just trying to look like you are, don't do that, right? That's just a waste of time for everybody involved, especially the seller themselves. Now, and also join trade complaint groups. That is the biggest thing. It's just as important to find, buy and sell groups for whatever card game you'd like to get into. It's equally as important to get into those trade complaint groups, and try and use those as a guide and a reference for who you deal with. Always go back and check and see if there's any aliases of that person that are listed, and they've done bad business in the past. Try and just cross-reference everything within those trade complaints, just so that you can really save yourself a lot of headache by identifying a scammer that for some reason he shouldn't really be in any of these groups, right? Because he's already reported to the trade complaint group, and what they do is they get him removed from, or try to get them removed from, buy and sell groups all across the board, but sometimes they can't, and sometimes it doesn't work that way. So you can save yourself a lot of headache if you just try and use that as a cross-reference. Now, we're going to get into the selling part of this, and it kind of coincides with the buying part quite a bit. Always use timestamps when you're posting something for sale. Try and keep them as up to date as possible. A lot of groups require you to do it, otherwise they won't either approve your post or your post will be deleted after you put it up. So try and use that. As a seller, you shouldn't expect to get 100% of either TCG Player, eBay, whatever you want to use as a reference for your pricing methods. You shouldn't expect to get 100% of that price. You're on Facebook to try and avoid the fees, try and avoid the taxing that you might incur. You're trying to avoid all that, so you need to expect to take 10 to 15% off of retail value, because that's what you would be getting anyway, right? I mean, obviously you can sell it for 100% if you'd like to, and you can ask for 100%, but people don't go to Facebook to pay full retail. If they wanted to do that, they would go through a very trusted app like eBay or TCG Player, where they for sure won't get scammed, and they don't have to go through all of these things that I'm talking about. They can just buy it outright, and they're looking for deals. And if you're not prepared to, as a seller, go on there and give deals, you're probably in the wrong place. Most likely. Don't get me wrong, you might find one or two people who will give you 95, 98%, really close to 100% of TCG Player value or eBay value, but it's going to be very few and far in between. Obviously, if somebody pays for tracking, or if you tell them that they're going to have tracking, provide that tracking number to them. Some people don't care. A lot, most do. Me personally, if I'm dealing with somebody who's super trusted within the community, I don't usually ask for a tracking number. If it's been like a while, then I'll go back and be like, hey, you have that, so I can see where it's at. But oftentimes I just skip it if I'm dealing with somebody I know well. But you should be providing it for everyone. Just as a good practice. It's just good business, right? Be wary of scammers, because you, just as sellers just as buyers can be scammed, sellers can be scammed as well. So I highly advise for you to be a part of the groups that I talked about earlier. For whatever trading card you're trying to sell, you should be in those complaint groups 100%. But try and avoid being scammed, man. It's hard. There's a lot of people out there that suck, and they're just trying to make a quick buck off of your hard-earned money, and it's hard to avoid that. Just look and make sure that there aren't new profiles. This goes for both buyers and sellers. If it's a new profile, that's a red flag. If they only want you to pay friends and family, that's a red flag. Just kind of go through these complaint groups, and you can kind of get an idea and a feel for how scammers talk and how they communicate, and kind of things to avoid. They're really a really great resource for if you want to buy and sell within the Facebook groups. I highly recommend them. Yeah, if you have any questions, please put them down in the comments below. I respond to everybody. And if you have any like questions just about buying and selling on Facebook in general, I may have missed some things. Just because I wrote down a couple of things right here. I've been kind of looking at it, but if you have any questions, please feel free to ask them down below, and I'll respond to everything. What to come next for the channel? We have some MetaZoo stuff I want to open up and do an unboxing of. We have a Rudy MetaZoo kit that we're going to be unboxing as well, just to see what we get, kind of in those things. And of course, Magic's coming with some unboxings, maybe some Pokemon unboxings, just some more unboxings. But I kind of wanted to talk about this today because I haven't really ever seen a lot of videos about it on the subject. I never really looked, to be fair, but I just kind of want to put this out there, and hopefully it'll help somebody and prevent some sort of headache for someone. Even if it only just helps one person, that'd be great. But anyway, have a great day, and I'll see you in the next video.